I ruined it.
Don't ding my plates. First step of getting ready for the swap meet is cleaning out the truck. This entire tower of nonsense is the result of the first hour of cleaning. Second hour, I'm literally, like, I've picked some of the trash out and I got overwhelmed, and it's just all getting shoveled and sorted later. Next step is selection of parts. Just anything that's of value but unnecessary and unneeded, which I suppose you could probably argue is all of it. Alrighty.
Okay, shall I get out?
Yep.
Oh, we have to have this crazy snow to complicate things.
I need to find a box probably to put on each end of that thing. Off to the swap meet to unload. Unfortunately, it is a little snowy, a little more frustrating because we've had some 70-degree days in between, but that's just how it goes for weather in Kansas. Kind of do want it to be a little bit cold for a swap meet so that people will want to be inside. There's some swap meets where it's been 60, 70 degrees and people off doing outdoor activities other places, but got a little more snow up north than we did down here, so hopefully that doesn't hurt the crowd too much. A lot of those people from up north, they may not have the roads plowed real great for them to come down, but it is what it is. Whoever shows up will be there, and we'll be there too. Got Joe coming and Gordon. They're gonna help man the booth. It's gonna be high in the 30s today. I think if it was any warmer than that, Joe would have probably been out at the Rust Ranch working, pulling parts and doing stuff. I helped him make a photo board of all of his vehicles for parts and projects. Some people, if they're just cleaning out a garage, then they can bring everything to the swap meet, but for people like Joe or me who have more vehicles, you're just kind of packing along a small representation of what you have, and then really the purpose of a swap meet booth is just to have pictures of your stuff there and get people to come out and look after the fact and shop. So when we do a swap meet, really, I mean, we might sell some things, but really don't know how well we've done until a week or two after, when all the people have come and looked at what we've got. This is at Century 2 Expo Hall. It's kind of had a uncertain future. They've talked about tearing it down, which I think is foolish. Century 2 is already 50 years old, and it's really kind of a unique historical piece on its own. But as anybody knows, the difference between protected historical structure and one that's not is just a declaration saying so. Either way, Century 2 is a triumph of mid-century architecture and something probably a lot of ways like a 70s car. You know, half the world thinks that it's nothing special, and then the other half recognizes what it is and the uniqueness and the historical value of it. This is day one, unloaded. Space next to us is empty, so looks like maybe the snow kept them away. If so, we'll have a little more space to spread out. I did bring a lot of bench seats this year. Been selling a lot of them on Marketplace, so I figured keep it going at the swap meet. Pretty well set up and ready to go. Joe and Gordon are on their way, so looking forward to getting to see them.
And you swat a car, so it's only about that thick, and it'll pick it right up. Yeah. I don't have that bit. I'm 40.
So you take a bunch of cars, smack them in, then you put it on your bag. And
I'll take 3, 4, whatever, you know, and then pile them up and stuff. Oh yeah.
Gordon, what do you think of the swap meet so far?
So far, it's okay. Had breakfast and walked around.
Yep. See anything here that brought back any memories?
Not yet.
Not yet. No 58 Chevys.
No.
Yeah, mine is killing me. Later. Good talking to you, Bob.
Where's he from?
He's the guy we bought that crew cab Ford from.
57 Pontiac.
Did he come up with us? He came up with us once.
Yeah, Gordon was there once. It was a day we were kind of in a hurry to get going.
Should I make something for you, Tim?
If you want. I got a pocket of screws and a screw gun. I like how you plan what you're doing. Scott just gets a screw gun in his hand and then figures out what he's doing.
Scott. Make sure to get the longest freaking screws.
That's the shortest screws I had.
I know.
Oh,
Take that.
that I picked up off your driveway.
So that grill's worth $250?
Yeah, that's what I want to get for it.
What's that worth?
Oh,
Drug got out of a damn field.
yeah.
Got the tack in the dash. It's got SS written on the side. I don't know what that means, but
$2,500.
I do. Oh, I ruined it.
Don't ding my plates. I bought them in perfect condition, and that's the way I want to sell them.
Some of them are in perfect condition.
There was a bunch that are brand new, never issued.
There's no tags on them or anything.
Right.
I should know. I loaded them all on that pallet out of my truck that can haul them back with.
How we doing?
Good. Well, I'm wondering what this 150 years of statehood is, because I was living in Texas and they had the sesquicentennial.
Yeah.
Don't work too hard.
All right. See ya. All right.
And that's what that is, 150, you know, 150
Yeah.
years. I've never seen one of these.
What do you want to say on this?
Oh. Reproduction sheet metal's been pretty hard to find. I mean, there's some stocked here, but a lot of it's kind of stuck at anchor in the container ships. So if you're watching this and thinking about planning a build, this would probably be the time to buy your sheet metal. If not for sake of availability, probably also for sake of price, just because all the inflation is driving up material prices and everything else. Kind of a bit of a tough time to be working on a project car.
Mad at me about selling something. Like I had a he had a 58 tri-power, and they moved it from the shelf I had it on to the top shelf, and then his garage roof started leaking, and it about ate the holes up in the bottom of the air cleaner. And if he did keep it, then he ruined it. He didn't store it. Hey, rough French.
Having fun. hit the tool table here. These are still pretty much pre-inflation prices, so if a guy needs it, this is a good time. So here's a quick look at the things that I found to buy at the swap meet. First of all, I found these early 60s Road and Track magazines. There's probably about 30 of them there. I was able to pick them up for $60 for all of them, so 50 cents a piece for something 60 years old is alright in my opinion. I'm not super big into imported cars, but it's just neat to look at them for the art that's in them. Neat little plastic 40s streamlined vehicles. Thought they were kind of cool. Then these 1934 and 1935 auto show booklets. Inside of these are pictures of basically every model, and then a little bit of soft advertising for Aetna. Got your price lists. Super neat. Imagine something like this probably doesn't have a super huge survival rate. Then we've got the vintage stop lamp. It's probably 1920s era. Possibly designed to mount on a rear spare tire. Early third brake light technology, or in some cases second brake light, because most of those early cars just had a single tail lamp on the driver's side. Then we've got the Stewart speedometer. That was before it became Stewart Warner. That one's pretty rare because it has the grade meter on the top there, so that would tell you what angle you were at climbing the altitudes. That actually does work, and condition is just pretty pristine with a good little bit of patina on there. Flying Lady hood ornament, I'm almost certain is an aftermarket piece, because down in the corner it's got the little catalog number there, and the casting is just probably a little rougher than what a factory assembly line piece would be, but still stunning piece of art and a great artifact. 30 SCAR taillight, excellent condition. Would be pretty hard piece to find. They always seem to get rusted out or knocked off, and something like that that's 85, 90 years old is pretty hard to come by in that condition. Then chrome radiator cap, hard piece to find because it's not attached to the car, so they get lost. Stuff like the taillight and the radiator cap is just fun for me to go look through the books, try to identify. The little Cadillac emblem, that's actually enameled on the crest there in the middle, so pretty early piece, just great display even if don't ever find the actual car that it goes to. Little Mobil Oil bank, not really into that kind of stuff, but a guy kind of threw it in on another deal with some other things I bought, so I wasn't going to refuse it. 1935 Kansas license plate, I thought was just interesting because the county number was also 35, so that adds a little bit of visual appeal and interest to it. That's Ford County. They did a numbering system, and so they were out 1 through like 128, I think Kansas counties, 120, something like that. And each county got its own number. The little jeweled reflectors, they're pretty neat Art Deco piece as well. Matching bases, but different colors. Most of those that you see, they're pretty plain, but the real decorative ones like that are kind of hard to come by. Then we got the NOS Shell gasoline and oil pencils. Pretty cool pieces. And vintage pencil sharpener, which NOS pieces like that, won't let them near that pencil sharpener. Keep them pristine and unused. Then really the most exciting part of the swap meet for me was there was a guy that had a whole entire table of books, and there are just a lot of hard to find ones in there that are really unique and interesting pieces of their time. The Star and the Laurel there is history of Mercedes-Benz. That one was written by Beverly Ray Kimes, who is one of the definite heavyweights of vintage automotive literature. Very well researched. Then you got your photo archives there. There's Packard, Lincoln, and then one of old beverage trucks. Those are pretty neat because they're actually from the primary source, meaning they're factory photos. So you've got some real interesting concept car photos and things like that in there. Then the little leaflet for the Chrysler Corporation, that was a great piece of factory literature. I already have one of those, but picked up the second one. Probably find someone to give it away to who's into those old Chryslers. Then really neat book is this mid-30s. See all the service tips in there. Service was pretty important on those early cars because the metallurgy wasn't quite what it is today, and so as they wore out, you really had to give them a good bit of attention. Then we've got the Big Book of Car Culture. I'm not really crazy about books like this because they're kind of academically light, but they're just interesting reading. This one I thought was a little more dense as far as some of the subject matter, so I picked it up. A lot of great old advertisements in that one. The caricature book, not really automotive, but this thing was published in 1909, and anything that's over 100 years old like that, I guess there is a little bit of automotive in there, but anything that's over 100 years old to me is just really fascinating that it's survived that long. And I mean, the world of 1909 is just so different from today, and archaic language in there is just very, very fascinating for me to read. One of my favorite books is Racing Cars. This is a book from 1960, and probably most of the vehicles that are in there are fairly rare and valuable relics today, but it's just neat to see a primary source book like that written at the time when they were new. Then Triumph of an Idea was written in 1934, and it's basically a story of the Ford Motor Company from the flathead V8 days back to the beginning. So that one will be one I'll probably pass on to a pre-war Ford guy. Man in the Motor Car. A lot of these I just like the old art in there. They were either woodcut or lino cut. And the art that's in them is just really fascinating to look at. And then the stories in there and just the different ways and the different times that each of these are from. Sandcasting. I never got to take any sandcasting classes in McPherson College, but it's always been of interest to me. I always thought it'd be kind of neat to cast an old hood ornament. I don't necessarily need to be the guy to do it with the tools in the hands, but it would just kind of be interesting to observe that being done. So, have a book on it. Matchbox cars. I always really like Matchbox because they seem to have more of the plain four-door sedans and station wagons. Hot Wheels, it seemed like, had more of like just fantasy type stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see out on the road. So I always really liked Matchbox when I was growing up. Probably the best book of the bunch is You Are What You Drive. Very entertaining. So they put in here, picture the car, and then just these caricatures of the types of people who drive them. So obviously 1980s, maybe early 90s book. And it's just really neat to look at something 30 years old, and it's just very much a window into the culture of the time. Got the Cordoba car wax can. Pretty neat piece. A friend of mine had one of those cars, so I'll probably mail that to him as a joke. These license plates, kind of unique in that these are the early ones that don't have on the bottom where it says licensed product of whatever company they're portraying. So that means that these are the very early ones. And to the license plate collector guys, the early ones without that licensing script on the bottom definitely have more value to them as collector pieces. So I was able to pick out some of them. General Motors and Chevrolet, real desirable, but really any of them, as long as someone is into that particular subject matter, any of that stuff seems to sell well. I was excited to find these pre-war maps. Just really neat 1930s graphic art on them. Got the era of streamlined vehicles, streamlined planes. They're just really fascinating for the art. I gave $40 for that whole stack, which is probably full market price, but I just really liked them. And over on this side, last couple pieces. I like the graphic art of these old modern vehicles. Modern of the time, not of this time, but that's just kind of how they drew them. And then you've got inside there your service stickers. Kind of neat that that whole book is NOS unused. Then this is a pretty rare pamphlet. This is stainless steel as used on all of the 1964 model cars. So pretty unique look at that. Obviously something within the industry. Stuff that's within the industry like that is pretty rare and hard to come by versus things like sales brochures that were passed out to the general public. The survival of that stuff is just pretty thin, few and far between. Then last piece, got the 1956, I think, Dodge truck puzzle. Just cool old graphic art that kids could enjoy back then.